guys are all just so awesome. You won't know. I have to keep doing my sobbing. You guys are the best routine. Sorry. But thank you very much. And thank you very much for sharing with us. I'm glad that we're able to keep this place running and that now people from everywhere are showing up for it, which is absolutely wonderful. Thank you. I believe I am in round 2 now, and like before, I read 3 things from the CC&D, the most recent issue of that one, and the next one is the most recent issue of Down in the Dirt magazine. Used to be a spin-off of CC&D, a section within, and started on its own, and somebody had a piece in there that was called Lifeboat, and I said, oh, I've got a picture that can be of a lifeboat, and so there we go. Lifeboat. Lifeboat. Lifeboat on the side of a big cruise ship or something. And I was like, I don't know if I like this cover. And my husband John looked at it and he's like, no, that's really actually kind of cool because it stretches across and you've got the concept of the lifeboat. I think it looks really, and I'm like, well, I'm glad you like it. Anywho, that is the December 2021 issue, and I'm going to read 3 poems from 3 different spots in this. I was working on doing an issue collection book, which I have the proof copy of. I'm going to read something from at the end of the night, and I'm going to release it tomorrow, but I wanted a title, and I saw a NASA image of a bunch of stars. It looked like a hand, like grasping at a nebula or something. It was just the coolest thing, and NASA is a government thing. It's copyright free, and I could use this, and so I said, I don't have an idea for a title, so I asked people, hey, can you send haikus, because I can fit them in spaces, and about something about a hand, and so I've got a lot of pieces in here, and because I had room in the beginning, which I didn't use for the title, I thought I'd put in a short poem in the beginning of this related to that, and it is called Holding My Hand. When we're walking in stride together down the street, and our feet pump out the same rhythm, and our shoulders almost start touching, and our hands brush up against each other, and for one brief moment, he reaches over and he takes my hand. When he slides his fingers along mine, and I feel him move along the palm of my hand, well, no one knows what it feels like when his fingers curl and hold me tight. Well, it feels like Pop Rocks. It feels like when that candy is sliding down my throat after I let it explode on my tongue, and it's still tingling, and no one knows that I'm eating this, and no one knows this feeling, and it's my little secret. And I feel like this feeling like never before, and it makes me want to laugh and cry, because I look around the room and no one is eating those Pop Rocks, and no one knows the feeling when he's holding my hand. Short one called Holding My Hand at the beginning of this book. I've even explained to Tom that sometimes when people have a piece of prose and at the end of the page there's not enough room for artwork or something, I'll have a really tiny poem to put in. Susan talked about winning contests for her poems. A couple of years ago, a chemist friend of mine from Chicago who knew that I wrote poems for every element in the periodic table, he said, hey, Science and Engineering News is doing a contest for a Twitter-length poems about elements. So I decided to write one for every element. But I didn't know how long this contest was, and I won 3rd place for magnesium, I think. But anyway, I've got one of these poems that are in here, and I even have a little Instagram image that goes with it, but it's really tiny and you can't see it, so you have to look online to be able to see it. But this is for an isotope, actually, for cerium-141, quote, one of the most prolific fission products of the atom bomb. Twitter-length poem. After U.S.'s 45 Trinity, New Mexico bomb test, about 2,000 miles away, New York's Kodak faced spotted X-ray paper from packaging made with war remnants at local rivers contaminated with beta particle radiation activity from cerium-141. U.S. government gave Kodak future test times to keep not people, but film safe. It's scary when you think of that. It's like, well, you know, they're doing these testing things and it's affecting people, but, you know, we'll let you know because you need to keep your film safe. So there you have it. Anywho, but I'm going to do one longer one toward the back that was actually compiled, written on the 21st of December. For December, I got one December reference. And it was actually National Short Story Day. So, Lorna writing prose. This piece is called Key to a Storyline. When a young woman, a researcher, a logical woman, was a scientist in Seattle, she led a research group in the pharmaceutical company to move to more successes in AIDS drugs for the world. Despite her successes, she learned how she still had to jump through both corporate and religious hoops to successfully accomplish her work. Then, out of the blue, a male friend from college, a man now living in New York with money and sorry, I'm trying to have a hard time reading in the light, with money and connections in a well-known publishing company. Well, he came to town on a business trip, and they rekindled their friendship, and they suddenly realized that although they were different, at the core they were really the same, and they finally found themselves in love. So, as she worked, she discovered from colleagues around the country that their government was stopping their progress with AIDS research. Her love, the man that she had fallen for, was attacked in a darkened corner of Central Park one night, and in the process was injected with a needle and had quickly developed HIV. This was her work. And this seemed like far too deliberate of an effort to stop her from succeeding. But she refused to sit back like a helpless, quote-unquote, maiden while everything falls apart. So she made connections and who knows, she may have talked to one too many conspiracy theorists, but what one then told her of AIDS being a government plan for ending some segments of society, and they actually gave her contact locations for where they kept this unknown cure. Now, this woman was a researcher, a scientist, but she couldn't let this injustice from her government continue. So she continued and started to work out. She bought a gun, she practiced, and quickly came up with a plan. She took time off of work, something she never did, and she collected her cash to make her way across the countries with no paper trail, and avoided attacks on her own life as she was able to find a small sample of the cure. She found only enough to save her love, and without proof, there was no way where that sample came from, and her hands once again seemed tied behind her back. And after all this work, she didn't know how to bring the government's wrongdoings to light. After risking her life, the only thing she could do was save her love. But she kept the original vial and planned to extract just enough of this miracle cure to help her move forward with her own research for a vaccine. Because if she couldn't show the world who the real enemy was, she could they'll at least be able to do her damnedest to be able to help the world and all these countless others who would otherwise be killed or from a cruel and unworthy government. And no, this short story might not have the happiest ending, but sometimes happy endings aren't the way life is. The plot still has twists and turns, philosophical conflict, and, of course, a love story. And it proves that even when life seems like there's no hope in sight, that it is possible to find a way to make things work in the end, which is exactly the way life should be. A condensed short story into a poem. I know that was a long one for you guys, but we have the time for it because we're just about halfway through right now for that. And